The night the storm came, the entire town of Greybridge seemed to hold its breath. Wind howled through the narrow streets like a wounded animal, rattling loose shutters and bending old trees until they groaned in protest. Rain poured from the sky in thick, angry sheets, turning the quiet roads into rivers of mud and reflection. Inside a small, dimly lit house near the edge of town, a young man named Daniel Carter sat alone beside a window, staring into the chaos outside as if it mirrored the storm inside his heart. Just a year earlier, Daniel had been someone the town believed in. Teachers spoke proudly of him. Neighbors smiled when he walked by. His father used to say Daniel had the kind of determination that could move mountains. But life, as it often does, had taken a sharp and painful turn. The accident had changed everything. Daniel still remembered that night with unbearable clarity. A moment of distraction, a wet road, and a single terrible decision had left his best friend, Michael, injured and Daniel drowning in guilt. Michael survived, but the friendship that once felt unbreakable shattered under the weight of silence, regret, and unspoken blame. Greybridge was a small town. Everyone knew the story. Some offered sympathy, but many looked at Daniel differently now. To them, he wasn't the promising young man anymore. He was the boy who made the mistake. For months, Daniel carried the weight of it everywhere he went. It sat on his shoulders when he woke up. It followed him through every quiet street and every awkward conversation. He stopped visiting the places he used to love. He avoided the football field where he and Michael once spent endless afternoons chasing dreams. And slowly, Daniel began believing what the whispers around town seemed to say, that maybe he had ruined everything. That stormy night, Daniel felt closer to giving up than he ever had before. The dreams he once held seemed distant and childish. The future looked like an empty road disappearing into darkness. But sometimes, the most important moments in life arrive quietly, disguised as something ordinary. As Daniel stared out the window, a flicker of light caught his attention. Across the street, in the house with the faded blue door, an old woman struggled with her porch lantern. Mrs. Evelyn Harper had lived in Greybridge longer than anyone could remember. She moved slowly now, leaning on a cane, but her presence carried a quiet strength that everyone respected. The wind nearly knocked the lantern from her hands. Without thinking, Daniel grabbed his jacket and rushed outside into the storm. Rain soaked him instantly, the cold biting through his clothes as he ran across the street. He reached Mrs. Harper just as the lantern slipped from her grip. Daniel caught it before it hit the ground. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain hammered against the porch roof while thunder rolled across the sky. Mrs. Harper studied Daniel with calm, knowing eyes. She didn't look at him with pity or disappointment like others did. Instead, she looked at him as if she could see the person he used to be, and the person he could still become. Daniel helped her secure the lantern and made sure she was safe inside. Before he left, she placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Her voice was soft but steady. Sometimes storms aren't here to destroy us. Sometimes they're here to remind us we're stronger than we think. Daniel walked back through the rain, those words echoing in his mind. That night, something shifted. It wasn't a sudden miracle. The pain didn't disappear overnight. But a small spark of determination began to glow inside him again. The next morning, Daniel did something he hadn't done in months. He visited the hospital where Michael was recovering from his long rehabilitation. The walk down that hallway felt heavier than any storm. Guilt tightened around Daniel's chest with every step. Part of him wanted to turn around and run. But the quiet words of Mrs. Harper kept pushing him forward. When he finally reached the door, he paused. Michael sat by the window, staring outside just like Daniel had done the night before. The silence between them felt enormous. Daniel didn't know what to say. There were no perfect words for mistakes like his. But sometimes honesty matters more than perfection. He admitted his guilt. He admitted how much he hated himself for what happened. He admitted how much he missed his best friend. For a long moment, Michael said nothing. Then slowly, something unexpected happened. Michael smiled. It wasn't a big smile. It was small, tired, but real. Because while Daniel had been drowning in guilt, Michael had been fighting his own battle, learning to walk again, learning to believe life still had meaning. Neither of them could change the past. But maybe, just maybe, they could still build a future. The road forward wasn't easy. Recovery rarely is. Michael's rehabilitation took months of painful effort. Daniel showed up every day, helping where he could, encouraging when the exercises felt impossible. Some days were full of progress. Others were full of frustration. But something powerful was happening during those long afternoons. The friendship that had once been broken slowly began to heal. Daniel also started volunteering at the local community center, helping younger kids with sports and schoolwork. At first it felt strange, like he didn't deserve to be a role model. But the kids didn't see him as the boy who made a mistake. They saw someone who showed up. Someone who believed in them. Someone who refused to quit. And little by little, Daniel realized something important. A single mistake doesn't define an entire life. What defines us is what we do after we fall. Years later, the town of Greybridge would remember that stormy night as the beginning of something unexpected. Michael eventually walked again. Slowly, carefully, but with determination stronger than anyone had imagined. Daniel went on to become a coach and mentor for young athletes, using his story not as a source of shame but as a lesson in resilience. The same people who once whispered about his failure began sharing stories of his perseverance. Because the truth is, every person carries storms inside them. Moments of regret, moments of loss, moments where it feels easier to give up than to keep moving forward. But storms don't last forever. And sometimes, the very thing that breaks us becomes the reason we grow stronger. Daniel Carter learned that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing courage in the present and hope for the future. If you're listening to this story right now and life feels heavy, remember something important. Your worst moment does not define your entire journey. Your story is still being written. And just like Daniel, you have the power to turn your storm into strength. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There are many more powerful stories waiting to inspire you. Because sometimes, all it takes is one story, to remind us that even after the darkest storm, the sun will rise again. Sunrise.